Welcome back, legends. I hope you're all fantastic. On today's video, we are taking a look at my favorite gear of the year 2022, an annual tradition here. On last year's video, I laid out 3 criteria that I wanted to stick to when evaluating these exceptional pieces of guitar noise-making equipment. I said something was either going to be particularly inspiring, useful, or indulgent to make it on the list. And I'm going to change that up just a little bit. I'm going to talk about pieces of gear that I found incredibly inspiring, that have got my creative juices flowing, or pieces of gear that I've been gigging with and recording with day in, day out. But the last category I want to talk about this time are pieces of gear that are kind of pushing the envelope. They're either new technology, or they're very forward-looking, or they're trying to create solutions to modern day problems that a lot of musicians have. So with that in mind, let's start out by taking a look at some of my favorite pedals this year. We'll start out with a drive pedal. Drive pedals are very much the bread and butter of a YouTube demo person's output. There's always some new drive pedal coming out that is either promising to be completely innovative or to be some very subtle refinement on an existing idea. This pedal, I think, refines and kind of collates a whole bunch of different boost tones, and it does it really, really well in a compact package, and it's pretty affordable for what it does. Coming out of Greece, the Crazy Tube Circuits Superconductor, super simple to operate. You've got a main knob on here to control the amount of boost, and you've got a 4-way selector on here to select between 4 different boost types. What's cool about it is you've got a Rangemaster style boost and an Echoplex style preamp boost over here with a fat switch over here, so you can kind of tailor it to single coils or humbuckers. And then you've got an MXR micro boost and a super hard-on, the ZVEX or ZVEX. Depends what side of the Atlantic you come from with that one. The way you pronounce it, it's probably ZVEX because they're an American company, right? But you got a 9 and 18 volt headroom switch in there. This, I found when I tried it out, I was like, oh, a boost with a couple of different flavors, but it just works into any sort of amp with any sort of guitar. You can get a flavor on here that is going to enhance that existing relationship between the guitar and the amplifier. You know, you can go from the kind of super transparent micro amp style thing to just give you more gain, or you can go for the Rangemaster style thing or the super hard on. I just found that one particularly useful, and it is a mainstay on my main drive board. I've got a video about that drive board that you can check out. Let's navigate from boosts and drives to modulation. Coming out of Australia, if you can believe it, Past Effects, the Elastic Mattress. I don't know if this one actually came out this year, but it was new to me this year. Shout out to Verley at Past Effects, who not only sent me some of their magical recreations of these classic pedals, but some vintage pieces for me to demo on the channel. And trying out Verley's vintage Electric Mistress side by side with the Elastic Mattress, this one lives up to all the hype and all the kind of magic that made those pedals so iconic. But it is quieter, it's smaller, and there's some little features on here like the bright switch that kind of emulates, I guess, different eras of these pedals on here. You've got a blend control on here and a switch on the front rather than the back to select between the standard kind of flanger mode and the, what do they call it, the filter matrix on there, like a fixed notch flanger. I just really, really enjoyed this pedal. It was something that kind of introduced me to the wonderful world of the Electric Mistress style flanger, whether you want those big swooshy tones or whether you want subtle Lifeson or Summer style chorusing on there. This is just a knockout, and I can see why so many people absolutely love this. Next, this pedal didn't come out this year, but it was new to me this year. This was actually a gift that my wife bought for me, the Way Huge Atreides, and this is just a filth machine. We actually did a video with it together, basically me playing through this and her just pushing all the sliders on there. And I think whether you're a seasoned guitar player or you're someone who's starting out, this is pure inspiration. You got controls for volume, sensitivity, the range of the kind of like envelope filter on there, a bright control, fuzz, and then you've got a sub octave and a phaser that you can blend in there. It's basically like all my favorite things about something like the EHX Microsynth, the Swollen Pickle, and the Pog in one. It is just gloriously disgusting, and this is something that, you know, if I'm feeling a bit flat, I'll plug it in, I'll make a bunch of noise, and I'll have a pretty good time. George Trips really is an absolutely legendary pedal designer, and I kind of like these slightly smaller box Way Huge pedals. You know, they're not tiny, they're smaller than my original Swollen Pickle, but yeah, just amazing stuff. And the final one, the big one, you know what's coming, it's the Eventide H90. I've been waiting for this pedal to come out for like 7-8 years, and not only did they take everything that was great about the H9 and double it, they included 10 brand new algorithms. They included stuff like internal parallel routing. You've got 4 inputs and 4 outputs, an extra expression jack on here. You've got MIDI. There is Bluetooth capability in here. They haven't released the app just yet, so I've mostly been using it from the front panel and using the computer editor. But it just sounds phenomenal. It's an Eventide. Of course it's going to sound phenomenal, but with all those extra routing options in there and spillover, I think they really knocked it out of the park. And I think the big bugbear that people had with this was that it was so expensive. You know, it's like $100 less than a Fractal FM3. And comparing it to that, you might look at it and go, well, that's not really great value. But I think if you compare anything to the FM3 or the HX Stomp, they're not great value at all. Obviously, this doesn't do amp modeling and cab loading and a bunch of other stuff, but it's kind of not designed to do that. It's designed for people who are running 2 H9s or people who have multiple Strymon pedals on their board to replace those with one unit and have all those extra options in there. So yeah, it's kind of a premium thing. This isn't something for beginners. It's really not something for people on a budget, but you get what you pay for with this thing. It is phenomenal. We're going to segue to amps and modelers and tone generators. Now, this particular unit definitely didn't come out this year. I did buy one though, because, you know, I've heard so many great videos with the Stomp. It is such a compact, powerful little unit, and it's got all the legacy M series effects in it. I decided to bite the bullet and just finally get one. But what did come out this year was the 3.50 update, which totally overhauls the inbuilt cab block in there. I think Line 6 did a great job with that. The factory cabs sound so much better. And I've done a few videos with this now if you want to go and grab my presets or take a look at how I would dial in some of the amps and some of the effects. And, you know, this is something that I can throw in a guitar case or a guitar bag when I'm traveling and have an awesome backup to my main rig, which is my Fractal FM3, which, as you can see, it's a bit bigger, but this thing, you know, my sound lives in here. That's the main thing. You see so much discourse about what's better, the Fractal or the Helix or the Quad Cortex. Using this is very much my happy place, and there's been several updates to this and the FM9. There's the FM9 Turbo out as well for people who need that extra power on the floor, and the Axe-FX 3. But Fractal's commitment to continually improving these products is absolutely second to none. So many of the features that were added to the Axe-FX 3 trickled down into this, the new amp modeling, the new speaker modeling, so many of the new effects like the Klon drive, the Hotcake, which I'm super stoked is in there. That's one of my favorite drives of all time. The Aurora delay for doing the Andy Timmons Halo style thing. They got the CPU usage down on this, so you can cram more stuff into here. This just keeps getting better and better. And speaking of compact little modelers, a shout out to NUX as well, because they put out an updated version of the MG300, the MG400, which I did a video with, which I think if you're looking to get into the modeling game and you don't want to spend, say, FM3 or even HX Stomp money on there, that is such a great little option, and I'm super excited to see what they come out with next. Now, speaking of amps, this isn't new stuff that came out, but I had the absolute pleasure of traveling to Sydney in May this year to go and check out the Zen Amplification Amp Vault. And I got to play through every iconic high gain amp ever. Their collection is simply jaw-dropping, and it did so much for me, where being able to play through like a Friedman BE next to a Wizard MTL, next to a Soldano, next to a Boogie, next to a vintage Plexi, really kind of drove home some things about tone for me. It was an incredible educational experience. It was a lot of work, but it was just so inspiring to go and play through all these amazing sounding amplifiers and, play through an early 70s Plexi and go, well, that's just the sound of rock and roll. Or to play through a Mark Series amp and go, you know what, this is the kind of thing that I really enjoy when it comes to tight high gain. And to contrast that with some other amplifiers that I would just never think to try, like a vintage AC30 side by side with like a 65 Deluxe Reverb. It was an absolute treat. Furthermore, the Zen channel, I think, is putting out the best demos of amps, period. And that's not just because I'm involved with them. I'm just merely the presenter. I played on a few of the demos and I did all the intros and I got to hang out there. But the amount of work they have put in behind the scenes to make those videos, where every single video has 4 like benchmark clips, so you can hear the same guitar being reamped through the same chain, through different amplifiers, and compare and contrast those. Super inspiring to see those, and it's this great public service where people can go and check out these super in-depth demos of amplifiers that are pretty much standardized, different speaker cabinets, different guitars, different guitar players, so many amazing players involved in that. That was an absolute treat to be involved in, and they have more content coming up, which I think people are really, really going to enjoy. So shout out to the entire Zen team. That was an absolute gear highlight for me this year. Guitars, there were 2 guitars that really stood out to me this year. As my channel has grown, I've had more and more opportunities to check out guitars and to demo guitars on the channel, and it's something that I'm still kind of feeling out the way I want to do it and the way I want to present guitar demos, what I want to talk about, what I want to play on there. It's a little bit harder than, say, demoing a pedal, where I can have all the things that I'm comfortable with, insert the pedal into the chain, and then twist some knobs and very easily show people what it does. Using a guitar is obviously like the tactile interface of doing what I do. So it's sometimes hard to communicate the things that I do and don't like about particular guitars. Furthermore, I have particular taste and biases when it comes to guitars that may not appeal to everybody. But the 2 guitars that really stood out to me were the PRS Mark Holcomb SE model, the 7, because it just kind of felt like my favorite PRS SC245, but with 7 strings and an awesome matte finish. In fact, one of my students came around while I was borrowing that guitar, tried it, and they went out the next day and bought one. And it's been awesome to see them kind of develop their chops on that instrument. The thing that I really liked about it as well is they did not skimp out with the pickups in there. You've got Mark's signature Seymour Duncan pickups and the coil tap, which I think sound great. You can get those super chunky modern metal tones out of it. You can also get bluesy tones and pristine cleans and everything in between. The other guitar, which absolutely blew me away because of the price point and because of the specs and because of the way it sounds, the Harley Benton Dullahan. This is absolutely one of my favorite pieces of gear for this year. I have done one very small upgrade to it, and just ignore all those strings at the end there. That was an experiment. I wanted to see what it looked like, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. I've definitely got some thoughts about it, but this is the Apollo Music like upgraded nut, so it's a 1-piece nut for the Dullahan. The Dullahan kind of comes stock with 6 individual little ones on there, which at the price point are pretty hard to fault, but having this solid nut on here, it's just a lot easier to restring. Roasted maple, stainless steel frets on here. I think the stock pickups sound great. The hardware's really, really easy to use. The kind of like in-between sounds on here are 80s shimmery goodness, and the humbucker tones are super chunky. I've done a bunch of gigs with this, and I will continue doing gigs with this because it's so small. I've basically turned it into my main backup guitars. So yeah, absolute home run by the Harley Benton team on this one. It's not like a good guitar for the money. I think it is just a good guitar, period. To round things out, we'll talk about 3 pieces of gear that, for me, fall more into the forward-looking and novel technological solutions. The first one is the Virtual Jeff Pro. This one's super cool because it was developed in Australia. It's a digital whammy bar where essentially you take the idea of, like a Digitech drop or whammy, so it's polyphonic pitch shifting, but instead of having an expression pedal, you have a little whammy bar that has a wireless dongle. It connects to a pedal on the floor, and you get super fast and accurate tracking, great latency on there, and it just kind of sounds really nice and smooth. If you didn't see my video with it, here's a little clip. Next up, this is a product that I'd been aware of for a few years. I finally bit the bullet and bought myself one, the Psych-Fi pickup system. So it's a hexaphonic pickup system. Joel from Psych-Fi has done some amazing research and development on this, and their website has so much great information just about pickups in general if you're curious, but the system uses individual pickups per string. You can buy them as existing kind of pre-mounted pickup sets, or you can buy the individual modules. It uses a multi-pin connector in there. I think I called it a 13-pin connector, and it's definitely more than that, and a breakout box. But you can just get sounds that you cannot get with a traditional electric guitar by using this system. Again, a little clip to remind you. To round things out, this one doesn't specifically have to do with guitar, but it has made rehearsing and jamming a whole lot more convenient for us as a band. It's the Elk Live. Kind of looks fairly innocent, like a small little interface on here. You got your 2 inputs on the front, headphone jacks, and on the back, outputs, some MIDI stuff, some expansion, and an Ethernet connection. And the Ethernet connection is what kind of transforms this from something mundane to something that is seriously pushing the envelope on there, because if you've each got one of these, then you can connect via the peer-to-peer Ethernet connection on here and jam remotely. We've done a bunch of rehearsals with this now with great results. It's something living in a city like Perth where everything is far away from everything else. It just takes out that kind of time poor element of trying to be in a band where everybody has jobs and families and commitments. And if it's a case of having to drive 45 minutes to a rehearsal studio on a weeknight, set up, then jam, tear down, and drive another 45 minutes, instead of doing that, you can log on to the Elk, basically immediately start playing away and get creative and get the job done in the minimum amount of time. I've talked about this at length in the video that I did with it, and I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with this, because not only is it set up for kind of online jamming, but the entire interface is built around a really low latency environment. And I'd like to see how they push this when it comes to expanding the number of inputs and outputs in terms of, maybe using this as a remote VST loader. So you could load up plugins on this and kind of use it in your main rig. And I'd like to see where they go with their subscription-based model. That was one thing that I think may have put some people off. I personally would like to see them go with like a pro model where you can pay like a one-time fee, you get the hardware and you get unlimited access. I know a lot of my mates in bands would go for that. The subscription model though, as I mentioned in my video, it's like cheaper than a weekly rehearsal room by quite a long way. And that would work for places like schools and, music institutions. And I know there are quite a few of those now where they're using these for remote learning. So yeah, this was a piece of gear that I kind of got put onto by our drummer. It seemed too good to be true, but it genuinely surprised me. So shout out to Bjorn and the entire team at Elk for doing something genuinely different. So much gear, so little time. I'm going to end it there. There were so many other pieces of gear which could have made it onto this list, but like I said, these pieces of gear really kind of tick those three boxes of either being really inspiring, incredibly useful, or kind of being forward-thinking and pushing the envelope of new technology for making guitar noises. I want to hear from you now. What was your favorite piece of gear that you acquired in 2022, and why are you enjoying it so much? Is it something that ticks all three of those boxes? Is it something just kind of weird and unique? Is it something inspiring, or is it just like a brand new amp or guitar that you've been gigging and recording with a lot? I would love to hear from all of you. You can also come and chat on my Discord server about all of this. It is linked in the video description, and all the pieces of gear that I have talked about in today's video will have links in the video description. Some of them are affiliate links, so I get a small kickback at no cost to you if you choose to go and pick something up. Alternatively, you can buy some of the music that I make with Ragdoll, or sign up to my Patreon if you like what I'm doing here on the channel. Hope you all enjoy your new gear over the festive season. Take care of yourselves, be good to one another. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.